Good morning, everyone. Okay, so our next speaker, if I don't slaughter his name here, Mark Szyperski, right? Yep. Hey, I got it right. Okay, he has spent his entire life in the passenger transportation industry. Often he has met with challenges which he needed help, and over the years, Mark has created one of the largest networks of professionals and industry experience to meet the needs of those who work in passenger transportation. Like a large, talented orchestra, they can create a concert of solutions for your organization. Having worked with hundreds of passenger transportation companies all over the world, they have the ability to take the best of the best to create solutions for your organization issues. So I'd like to put out a good welcome to Mark.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I am the President and CEO of On Your Mark Transportation, and as Vicki mentioned, I've been in the industry since I could climb the steps of a bus. My dad drove for 33 years for Greyhound, and so I learned about customer service from the right front seat of a Greyhound bus. At 5 years old, I knew about being in uniform and making sure you got off the bus with your hat on, or else you'd get written up by the mystery rider. So I rode a lot, and I was going to be a bus driver, except my dad said you have to go to college and do something more than be a bus driver. And I went, So my junior high band director drove bus in the summer for Greyhound, and I went, that's what I'll do. I like music, so I'll become a teacher, and then I can drive bus in the summertime. And I actually had my, at that time was chauffeur license, not CDLs. Yeah, I'm that old, but anyway. I had my license to drive before I had my license to teach, and so I was driving all the way through, taught for a couple of years. I'm from Michigan originally, and in Michigan they are allowed to vote on their school taxes, and every May they would vote out their school tax, and every May art, phys ed, and music lost, and so I'd lose my job in May, and then every August they'd have a second vote, and the band boosters would get together and they'd vote it in, and I'd get my job back. And I thought, that's not really a lot of fun. So I was driving in the summer times, and the Indian Trails was the company, and they said, well, we need a dispatcher if you'd like to do that. And I said, sure, because I didn't know what a dispatcher really was or what the job was, but it was around buses, and so that was my first step. And then from there, I've moved through doing different work from director of sales to HR to general manager, and ended up eventually at Trailways Corporate. I was vice president at Trailways Corporate for a while, and then went off on my own and formed my organization. And as Vicki said, one of the things I've been really blessed with is finding people who know what they're doing. And we have a bunch of folks who, if I don't have the answer, which is usual, I know who does have the answer. And so it's been really fun and a great ride. So I was asked to speak about sales and business development today. And what I wanted to talk about mostly was, let's go back, just like the movie Back to the Future. Because we've got, in this age of Google and Facebook and LinkedIn and Dropbox and all this wonderful social media and electronics, it still comes back to one thing: good customer service. A friend of mine posted on LinkedIn the other day, he was at an airport where people could put their order in on a little iPad at the desk, and someone was having issues and asked the bartender that their iPad didn't seem to be working, and the bartender just said to the person, well, just reboot it and try that. How about, Mr. Bartender, you reboot it for the person and give it a try? Needless to say, the person just got up and left, because they're not there to serve themselves, they're there to have assistance. And when they ask for assistance, we should be there to assist. And I thought that was just the perfect story about what we're going to talk about, because So many times in sales, people are all hung up on let me email you, let me text you. In fact, I actually talked to one person who's in sales. Phone calls was way down on their list. The person is a little younger than I am, but there's no reason when it takes three emails or 4 texts to get an answer why you shouldn't just pick up the phone and call the person and resolve it that way. So that's what we're going to be talking about. You know, I live in a small town just outside Nashville, Tennessee, and we had a new restaurant open. The restaurant was well known, and a lot of people showed up right away when it first opened. And my family and I went there to have dinner, and the nice young lady at the entry level, the host, said, that'll be about a 45-minute wait. And I could understand because the lobby was quite full of people. And I'm sorry, but I just don't wait 45 minutes to eat dinner. So we left. And we would go back time from time, and it was usually 30 to 45 minutes. But I noticed that there were fewer and fewer people in the lobby. Because again, I don't wait that long I don't care how good you are. And so we went back one time, and she was saying 20 to 30 minutes, and there was like hardly anybody in the lobby at all. So while she seated someone, I kind of got nosy and walked around to her little iPad, and the little iPad thing said average wait about 8 minutes. And I went, that's not 20 to 30. So I said to my wife, let's just hang out for a little bit. And sure enough, in about 5 minutes, she seated us. And on the way back to the table, I said, and oh, by the way, she's telling people 20 to 30 minutes, and I watch entire families turn and walk out because they're not going to now wait that amount of time. So I saw a number of people turn and leave. And I told her as we went back to the table, that wasn't anywhere close to 20 to 30 minutes. And she says, I know, but I get tired of people getting mad, so I just tell them that. And then they're not, and when I seat them early, they're happy. Well, yeah. That's good for you, but not necessarily good for the restaurant. So I mentioned to the general manager, I says, have you noticed your host person giving the time as 20 to 30 minutes? He says, no, we don't have that much wait. I says, well, she is, if you haven't listened. He says, you know, I've noticed from the beginning that our people, the occupancy has been going down. And he says, I guess I've never paid attention because we had such great sales when we opened. Yes, at the time you did, but people have been turned away by your hostess, and she's just making her job easier. He says, I didn't pay attention. Well, needless to say, that restaurant is now closed because people got tired of being told to wait. And it's a small town, but we have a lot of restaurant choices. So I've talked to a lot of company owners who say, well, I don't have to worry about sales because we had a 5% increase last year or 10% increase. My question is, what would have been the increase if you had and your salespeople had paid attention? Maybe instead of 10%, which is good, maybe it would have been 12 or 15. How many sales walked out the door because someone didn't know or didn't provide the customer service that they were expecting or hoping for, or didn't get from another company? So what I suggest is that not only do we spend a whole bunch of money on equipment and quite a bit of money on maintenance and maintenance training for our maintenance people to keep the what I always call the pretty buses maintained, and we do driver training, in quite a few cases. But how many of us actually have trained salespeople? And do you listen to yourself what your inside salespeople are doing on their sales call? Do they know the steps of the sale? And by the way, I'm a walker. So now that you know what I look like, I'm not important. The information is. So, and I also don't make pretty slides. because I get hung up on the information. This is like church. Everybody sits in the back, so I got to talk from back here. So do they know what the steps of the sale are? You know, steps of the sale are very important. And I love when I get to talk to a good salesperson who knows the steps of the sale, because first off, I get to mess with them. I know where we're at in the sales process, and so as we're going down through it, I go back to step 2, or maybe go on to step 6. But you know what most folks always miss are asking the final step of, well, not actually the 7th step is ask for the sale. Try and close the sale. And I cannot tell you how many salespeople do not do that. They don't ask for the sale. So they're just order takers. Are they using quoting software? Are they actually selling or just matching price? And more importantly, do you know what they're doing? How many times have you had your neighbor or relative or someone call and ask for a quote and take little notes on what your folks are saying or doing on the phone? And how long does it take for them to call back? Because it's important that you know what they're doing. I always say catching is a good thing, and it's more than just catching a football. So why not have a sales incentive program? Now, a lot of people do sales incentive programs because of number of sales made in a year, or number of sales made in a quarter, or something like that. And that's a good thing, and that's important, but how about having something a little more instant gratification by how many times did they ask for the sale at the end of a call? Asking about how did the new customer find you? Do we know that? You know, we do all this stuff on social media, and we do all this stuff on websites and spend all this money on marketing, and no one ever asks the new customer, how did you find us? Give them a reward for just asking that. How about getting all the information, and most importantly, the email address? Now, if they're using quoting software, I'm hoping that it won't let you go to the next page without getting it. But I know of a number of companies where the salespeople did have a phone number, but they didn't have an email address. And how can you do the constant contact and all the wonderful social stuff if you don't have the email address? How about giving out a sales incentive for every time your salesperson on the phone explains the difference from your company to your competition? But they have to know what that difference is. Do they know? Do you know? What's the difference between your company and the other one?
I have older buses.
Yes, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. Because I have worked almost always for a company that had older buses. Another sales incentive, when you, in your day, walk amongst the salespeople, or, you know, at 5 o'clock, be fair about it, if they all leave at 5, walk amongst them and see whose voicemail light is still blinking at the end of the day. Or at least they've listened to the voicemails before they walked out the door, so that the light's not on. Do you do that with your own phone? Do you check your messages? I'm one of the folks who is, as a consumer, and I'm on different boards and committees, I'm the person who calls at 4:45 in a panic because I forgot I got to give a committee report that night, and I need a price on a hotel, or I need a price on something. And I call in a panic and I say, please, I need to make this presentation tonight, and I just need a quote, or I just need to answer this question. And the winning person who calls me back before 5 usually is the one who gets the business, because I've gone to my committee saying, The other companies weren't responsive, but this one and this one were, and this is the information I have to respond to the purchase. How many of your Band Booster customers, how many of your church customers, how many of your other folks could be calling at 4:45 saying, I'm stuck, I need help, and your salesperson at 4:45 never listened to the voicemail, at least listened to find out what might be sitting there. So have them listening, at least listening. They don't have to respond to every call, but at least listen to every call before they leave. And you can incentivize that with a little bit of a Starbucks gift card or a McDonald's. We're not talking about hundreds of dollars. People just like to be appreciated. And something little like a Starbucks card or something else that says, thank you for doing, yes, I know, it's what they're supposed to do. No. You're catching them doing something right. So take a moment to thank them by giving them a Starbucks card or a McDonald's or a Panera Bread card. Something. It doesn't take a lot.
You get a Happy Meal.
That's right, because I'm happy with you. And you can actually make it that way. How long does it take to return a call? Do you know that from your salespeople? Can you find out through your phone system? More importantly, how long does it take to return a quote? My wife is a travel agent. She does a lot of group travel. I can't tell you how many times she says, Mark, I love you, but I hate your industry. She says, I can take a group of 50 people and I can put them on a plane. I can take that group and I can make reservations for them in a restaurant. I can take that group of 50 and I can book them in a hotel, and I can do almost all of that online, but I can't get that group of 50 from the airport to the hotel. Not with a number of phone calls. I can't do it online in most cases. I have to make a number of phone calls, and when I do, I have to wait for a return call. For a frickin' airport transfer from the airport to the hotel. What? Yeah, actually, and I know that's true, I'm sorry to say, I was asked by a company to come in and observe their sales methods. And so the owner said, just take that stool, sit in the corner, and just take notes. He said, I'm in particular about this one particular salesperson. She's new, and I just want to know that she's doing okay. So you don't have to, just take some notes and observations. And I said, okay, I do that a lot. So I went in, and I sat in the corner, and I listened to this salesperson who had a wonderful phone voice and a phone personality. And she took the call came in, and I could tell that it was a group that was going from a high school to the airport on such and such a day. And they were going from the airport back to the school on such and such a day. She was really good. She asked all the questions about phone number, and she had all those steps really worked out. And at the end of the call, she said, okay, you should get a call back from us in about 24 hours. It's an airport move. Really? And I asked her, I said, the group is just going to the airport. Don't you have a list of all the airports with all the prices? And she says, no, my owner won't let us quote anything. All of the quotes have to go through the owner. I said, but it's an airport move. And she said, I know, but that's why we have to take 24 hours, because the owner has to review. So I went, I think I know where the sales problem is. I went to the owner at the end. He said, well, how's she do? I said, great. She knows about getting all the information and being very careful. She's got a great personality. You could see her smiling, so I knew that the smile was coming across on the phone. I says, but she says, you have to do all the quoting. He says, yes, I don't want my competition to know what my prices are. So I do all the quoting so the competition doesn't know my pricing. I said, well, how much do you change your airport Oh, not much. I just keep them guessing. I said, well, it's keeping your customers guessing too. And an airport run, you could have booked that like right there on the spot. So let's just get to the basics. You know, if you want to get fancy with the big trips, but an airport move, get the quotes out. Some of you may have an outside salesperson. Most of you do not, from what I've found. So does an outside salesperson, if someone does bring someone in, because I get this, asked this often, does that mean it's going to be instant sales? All of a sudden I'm going to see a huge increase in my sales because now I've got an outside salesperson? No. That's anything in our industry, as you all are aware of, takes time. I don't care if you're Mr. Magic or Miss Magic on sales, it's not going to happen today. Because the people who are booking us generally are not happening today. Now, we'll talk a minute about some ways you can make some things happen quicker, but don't have huge expectations. And when you hire an outside salesperson, who are you looking for? Are you hiring Al Bundy? The guy who sells shoes in the mall, or used to? Selling retail sales is not outdoor, door-to-door, wearing out the shoe leather sales. Outside sales means you have to be outside. So they have to be trained, and then trained, and then trained again. Now, the only other way to do this is maybe hire an intern. You're going to hear that a lot from me today. So you get some marketing student who is wanting to do marketing, and you get them to do your outside sales. Of course, you have to teach them more, but they usually are looking to add to their portfolio, and the nice thing about an intern is they're really inexpensive. If they cost you anything, depending on the local school, they don't cost you as much because these folks are wanting to get out there and make a name for themselves, and they want something in their portfolio that they can say, this is what I did while I was in college. So think about going that route if you are getting, but please find someone who has experience in the outside. And then start asking them to keep track of who they're calling on. One of my big ones is, how many hotels does your outside salesperson call on? And I've had people say, well, you mean like the Westin Conference Center or the Sheraton next door? No. I'm talking about the place that has meetings of 50 or less. And then call on the salesperson. Because calling on salesperson people it's much easier than calling on the general manager. Salespeople want to see you, especially if you have a bus card in your hand, a bus business card, because they're going, this person's going to book with me. No, I'm going to try and get your business. So I would take a bus, because I do have a CDL. I would, and your outside salesperson should. I would take a bus and I would go to the hotel and I would say, do you have a minute to meet with me? Oh, of course. You're a bus company. Yes, I do have time to meet with you. Great. Can we go to my office? And I'd take them out to the bus because it keeps people from walking in on our meeting, keeps the phone from ringing and all those other distractions, and I'd take them onto the bus, which was my office. And that way I controlled the discussion. And I would talk to them about being their transportation partner. And I can't tell you the number of salespeople who told me they've never had a bus person come and talk to them. And I talked about being their transportation partner for, again, the airport moves, and I would talk about spouse tours. And they'd say, what is a spouse tour? Well, while you're having your meeting, or your group is having your meeting, the spouses have to do something. Why not take them to the distillery or to the shopping or to the something and set up and we have smaller vehicles, so we could take a couple different groups. And so they would say, and I say, look, just take my card, take my brochure, get a brand new manila folder and stick it in your file cabinet, and just remember that I was here. I had one time, 2 weeks later, called me and she said, how'd you do that? And I said, how did I do what? She says, how did you know that I was going to have a group come and book me because of you? I said, that's just experience. She said that what happened was a group was looking at different properties, and they all looked at different properties, and she said, I knew that I really didn't have much to offer different than the other different properties, and so I said, if you book your conference with us, we can offer spouse tours. She says, I didn't know anything about it too much till you told me. She says, but I said, we'll set up other trips for your group to do while the group is actually in their meeting. The spouses can do these other things. And they told me the reason they booked my property was because I offered something that nobody else did. So,
I'll take the women drinking and shouting.
there you go. How many churches does your sales group call on for all the extra stuff? Are they calling on all the churches? What about company picnics and outings? So do you go to, as your salesperson, go to the industrial parks and knock on the doors to the HR people and say, hi, would you like to have a morale building event and take your group to whatever, the amusement park, to a picnic, to something off property? And if it's something like an amusement park or Legoland or someplace fun, more than likely the employee is going to be happy to pay a part of that just to have the opportunity to go on the trip. So the company doesn't have to necessarily pay for the bus cost. So you can say, look, we're going to split this down, make it inexpensive for all of your employees, and you end up not paying anything. So just let them know you exist. I have a lot of people say, well, you know, the universities are always looking for the cheapest bus. Okay, here's how you find out more about that university. Have your salesperson go in an off-bid time and say to the athletic director, I'm new, or I'm old, it doesn't matter. I'm wanting to know what the university of what's happening now is looking for in their transportation program. And then listen. Because it's important for you to know what they're looking for, and might be a chance, because you know the first things they're going to say is, oh, it's got to be the cheapest bus. We're required to have the cheapest bus. Okay, is there anything else important? Well, it's got to have these amenities, you know, satellite or whatever. Years back, I got a bid from a university, and on the bid it said, must be a new bus and have a working DVD player. And that was the only thing in the bid. Must be a new bus and a working DVD player. Send in your bid. So when I was visiting in non-bidding period with athletic directors, and they would tell me that, I would say, okay, I understand. And I would tell them the story of the one university that asked for a new bus and a working DVD player. And I would go on to show that it's not just about pretty buses, but what makes your company different. You have to know what makes your company different. So how many calls to current customers, prospective customers, customers, we had a problem. Is your outside salesperson on their doorstep the next day going, we understand that our bus was late, the air conditioner didn't work, whatever, and saying we would really like to offer you this incentive to come back and give us another try, whether it's 10%, 20% off the next trip, a little bit of money back, something. So, and do they have a company vehicle to run this with? And are they setting daily, weekly, and monthly sales goals? I want to go back one step. When they're making the presentation, as Kevin said, you know, you're out there trying to sell with an older bus. I had a company in Nashville that I worked with, and we weren't known for the most newest equipment. And there was a company that that was their pitch on their website, newest fleet in the city. That's what they pitched. And a band booster group asked us to come and make a presentation. I knew my competition. I knew them inside and out. I knew the salesperson. You know what? Today, he and I actually are best friends. He's a client of mine. We always got along. We never said something negative about each other. But I just knew how his presentation, and he always brought a bus and a driver. And he always showed his new bus. So the band booster group was there. I know from experience, let your competition go first, you come in second. In this case, it was easy for me to say that. I said, you got a driver out there waiting, I'll let you present first, and that way you can get the driver and the bus back to the garage. So he did this great thing about what, their new equipment, how great they are, the uniform driver, so on and so on. We walked out, he showed the bus. Now, it wasn't a new bus. It was actually a 4-year-old bus because I looked at the manufacturing plate. And he did the thing with the overheads and look at the TVs and all the fun stuff, and the seats recline and the bathrooms back there, whatever. And he got done, came inside. We all sat down, and they looked at me, and it was my turn. And I said, that is a beautiful bus, isn't it? We have pretty buses too. I didn't bring a bus because I knew that he was. And our buses have the reclining seats and the overhaul racks, and we have all of those things, so a bus is a bus. And I asked this, and I'm going to ask you to participate in this. How many in this room, right now, I would like all of you, how many of you in this room have a car that's 1 year old or older? Not a new car, but 1 year old or older. Raise your hands, please. Okay? Raise your hand. Keep them up, please. All right? Keep them up. How many of you that have this 1 year old car or older, if you were going to Disneyland and you took it to your mechanic and he went through your car and said, yes, your car can make it to Disneyland, how many of you would drive your car to Disneyland if you got that back? Sure, everybody's hand is still up. So it's not about how new your car is to go to Disneyland. What's important is how well maintained your car is to go to Disneyland. That's the same with our equipment. We pride ourselves in maintenance. We pride ourselves in making sure our buses get there. And he's got a great maintenance department, but here's what is different with me. When you go, at this time we were bidding on a Nashville to Washington, D.C. I says, come look at both our maintenance departments. You'll be impressed with both of them. But when you go down the road, I have a friend, Bill Gentry, who lives in Knoxville, who has a bus company. And I have another family friend who's in Roanoke, Virginia. The Abbott family, they have a bus company. And I'm good friends with them. And when I get to D.C., I have a company called Mart's that I can take you. And so if along the way we have a problem, I have the fix waiting. All of you have that, but none of your salespeople ever say that. They don't point it out. So what's important is the maintenance, and what's important is what happens if we drop the ball. We have backup along the way. We can either get the bus fixed or we can get a repair bus along the way. I pointed that out. He didn't. We got the trip, and we actually charge more than they do for an older bus. But I pointed out the difference of us versus them. Okay, so now we have all the social media, but how often have you been involved with your local, or at least maybe some of the other chambers of commerce? Do you know that many of the small town chambers are as small as $75 to $100? I'm a consultant for Greyhound in Alabama, and we do marketing for them in the state of Alabama. I probably belong to about 20 different small town chambers of commerce. I actually came out to visit a client of mine one time was in the hotel at night. I'm not a good hotel person, so I went out for a walk and walked down a little strip mall to find something to eat. And there were a group of people at this wine tasting place saying, come on in if you're here for the chamber event. I says, well, I don't live in the area. They said, well, come on in anyway. Okay, wine tasting, chamber, that's fine, I'll do it. I did it. You know that half the people in the room didn't know that my client existed? I'm here because of my client, so-and-so bus company. They went, oh, we have a bus company in town? Yep. If your chamber doesn't know, they can't promote you and tell others. But you got to be there. You've got to participate. Don't just stand in the corner and wait for people to come to you. How about service clubs? This is not a sales opportunity. This is an educational opportunity. So this is where I talk about the education, that they're not all the same, what to look for when you're writing a bid. You know, back to my story about the university, I talk about vicarious liability to service clubs. What did they know or should have known when they chose the company that they did? Did they know the safety record? Did they know anything about the company? And I say to the service club members, who here is going to bid on a church function or a band booster function? And are you looking for, like my university example, a new bus with a working DVD player? And then I show them this picture. This was back with the Bluffton baseball team in Ohio. And the driver was unfamiliar with the area, was not trained to, and went up an exit ramp thinking it was a ramp to another an interstate, went up the ramp and off the bridge on the other side. And I say in my talk to the Kiwanis clubs and so forth, that bus was a new bus and the DVD player was working when it went off the bridge. But they didn't have enough insurance. And so the Bluffton University was sued by the parents because they went with the cheapest bus and didn't check all of the necessities of what actually happened. So then I also say, are your garage salespeople trained? And I often get, and I have gone out to the garage and asked them, we're going to have our sales meeting, and they go, you're in the wrong department, this is maintenance. No, your maintenance department are some of your most important salespeople. So when they decide to stick duct tape on something, that's telling the customer, your armrest or that door isn't important enough for me to keep from squeaking. I'm just sticking duct tape on it to keep the noise off. Well, no, I'm not paid by community colleges, but back to the intern thing, there are colleges that have maintenance programs. Find an inexpensive minimum wage or just above minimum wage person with a screwdriver and have them fix those kinds of things. And then the salesperson in the driver's seat, are they trained? Are they posting on social media? And are they helping your recruiting program or hurting it? And then after you get everything done, then we can go to social media. And yes, you need to have a presence. And so here's again where you can get interns to do those kinds of things. Is your website just pretty buses? I know most of them are. When I go to websites, company websites, most of them have great pictures of pretty buses. No drivers, no staff, just pretty buses. Do you know what others are saying about you? I go to TripAdvisor a lot when I am traveling, and I look, and there will be a bad hotel review, but what counteracts the bad review is the general manager who says, I'm so sorry that happened, that was a new person, this is the situation, or whatever. Their response tells me a lot, and how quickly they respond. Are you getting customers involved to post and tag you guys on their social media? Are they giving you testimonials and putting them on your website? And are you linked and to whom on your website? California Bus Association. You all should be having that right there. And if you belong to American Bus or United Motor Coach. So, since I'm here speaking of sales, I'd be a horrible salesperson if I didn't say I'd love to be of service to you and your organization on a one-on-one basis. And since the association here has brought you all together, I'd like to offer you $95 savings per day off my rate to come and talk to and train your salespeople, your outside salespeople, your maintenance salespeople. And since you're in an association, what you could do is some of you may want to get together from the, since I'm from Nashville, so somebody from the southern part of California, talk to somebody from the middle part, talk to somebody from the northern part, and share my ride on the airplane out here, and the rest, then the expenses are a lot less. So think about doing that. If you need to, feel free to reach me, phone call, email, or otherwise, and let me know how I can be of service to you. I do appreciate you all having me here, and I'll be around for any questions afterwards, and if we've got any kind of time at all, questions.
We can do some Q&A because we can roll into lunch a little bit late. Would anybody like to do some Q&A before we let Mark go? Takers?
You know, Mark, one of the things that you talked about, having that salesperson, having the customer on the line, and this thought of, well, I got to check this out, and we'll get back to you within 24 hours. You know, a company they won't get that opportunity again.
That's right.
You know, and I think when I owned my business, that was the practice was you got them on the phone. All they want is a price. How much is it going to cost? And I often thought that because I stayed late in the office, that time from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. was the golden hour, because all they want to do is, not to be misogynist or anything, but that secretary, the last function of the day was to set up the bus.
Yes.
And number one, they're not spending their money.
That's correct.
Is to get the bus.
Right.
And so if they knew that there was a price, and can you confirm it? Of course, in those days, I would fax over the quote, and will you take the credit card? So
Yep.
price is not the issue. It's I can leave the office that day, and I've booked the bus, and I've taken care, I've scratched that off my list, and I'm happy. So if if a company doesn't take those opportunities, and like you say, an airport transfer, $125, $475, all they want to know is how much.
How much? And now that I've got them, the airport transfer is $950. Now, since I've got you in this day and age of it's so difficult to get back in touch, can we just go ahead and do the paperwork while we're both on the line together, and that way we don't have to do the whole phone tag thing back and forth? Most of the time, your competition's not asking, you are. They'll say, sure, let's do it. Because as you said, they're there, they want to get this done. And one more thing, can I get this off of your table? Can I get this off your to-do list? Let's just get this done. I've had people call me and back in my sales days, and they'd say, what's the price for a bus to go to? And I'd say, well, that's a very good question, but I know the first question you wanted to know was, how much insurance do we have? And what's our safety record? I know that's what your first question is, not the price. And they go, no, price is really what I'm asking about. And I say, well, do you want to be the whatever it is that they're calling on, parent, clerical, whatever. Do you want to be the person who stands in front of the TV cameras or the parent group or the church group and say, yeah, we had an accident, but it was the cheapest bus I could find? Or do you want to be the one who says, I looked at their insurance, I found out about their driver training, and I did, I found out that they're Department of Defense certified. So I did what the military does. I found the best bus company first, and then the least expensive of the best bus companies. And so I can't tell you the number of companies that I know are DoD certified, and their salesperson never brings that up as a sales point.
Any other questions for Mark? Well, join me in thanking Mark for coming and speaking to
Thank you,
CDA
everyone.
today.
Appreciate it.